tuning into the podcast. I welcome you, and I hope that today's episode is one that will have you coming back for more. And if you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back and hope that today's episode is one that you find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get to our main event, if you are on YouTube watching us, please make sure you hit the red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. Also, if you're listening from Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for those who would like to donate to this platform that we're continuing to grow, you can do it in four ways. You can go to Cash App with the handle $IDTALK4ED, Venmo using our handle @Kwame SM, that's KWAME SM, and then PayPal with the URL paypal.me/Kwame SM. And for my day ones who have been with Identity Talk from the beginning, you can become a patron today by joining the community on Patreon. Over there, you'll get behind the scenes footage of past episodes of the podcast, as well as some perks to show our appreciation for all the support you've given us. And then the last, but certainly not least thing is that if you want to catch past or future episodes of the podcast, you can go to our main website at IDTALK4EDucators.com. And then for my book lovers, you want to add a new book to your 2025 list, you can go ahead and add my newest book, Learn to Relearn, Supporting Identity in a Culturally Affirming Classroom. It is a book that continues to captivate and inspire so many people. The feedback that I've received up until this point has been overwhelming, and I can't thank the community enough for buying copies of the book, for sharing selfies, for posting reviews on Amazon, and for spreading the word to their friends, colleagues, and loved ones. Every ounce of support is greatly appreciated on my end. And if you don't have a copy yet, no worries. You can order your copy today on Amazon, Rutledge, or wherever you can buy books. Or you can go to our main website here at learntorelearn.com. Over there, you'll get some information about the book, the chapters, and access some free learning resources to help you with your journey. Thank you again. All right, y'all. So today's guest is somebody who surprisingly has never been on this podcast before, and this is the homie today. I feel like every other day we are somewhere. We're either doing some mentoring or we are doing a workshop together. We always find ourselves in the same spaces, which lets me know that we're just meant to be together. We are aligned in so many ways. And I'm excited to finally have her on a podcast so she could share her journey and all the great work that she's doing. So without further ado, I want to bring on Benita Gordon to the podcast to talk with us about her journey and let us know what she's up to right now in 2025. Let's bring her on. What's going on?
Hello. You said 2025. I was like, oh.
2025.
It's 2025.
We are here.
Oh, wow. What a journey.
What a journey. How you feeling?
I'm great. How are you?
Tired but good. A lot of stuff going on my end, but we are all here.
That's right. I was sitting here like, this has been 2024 was a great year. It had its ups and downs and all of the things, but it's good to walk into 2025, and it's good to for you to still have this podcast and for us to still be able to talk about education.
Yes, for sure. So to get us started, for those who do not know who you are, I do want to give you an opportunity to just share a little bit about your upbringing, growing up in Virginia, and then eventually doing the work that we love to do called education. So I want to give you a chance to share that.
So my name is Benita Gordon. I am known to many as the EDU or the Education Concierge. I am a former public, private, parochial, charter school educator. Middle school was my thing. It is my jam, as we like to say. Love
Yes.
seventh and eighth graders. Taught up and down the East Coast and overseas. Decided to get ready to transition out of teaching, out of the traditional classroom. I work with microschools, innovative schools, the ed tech community, but I still work with public school because we still know that we want to make sure that there's a pipeline for educators. We want to make sure we're putting the correct educators in front of the students. And so I'm very much involved in that, speaking at conferences. But what started me in education and who's like my education person, I would have to say our mom. Our mom was Brenda Scott Gordon, and she taught first grade over 30 years in the same county that she grew up in, Emporia, Virginia, at Emporia Elementary School. I can remember her classroom. One year she had a classroom. You went in, you went down under the stairs, and then the next year she came up and went upstairs. And she was an amazing educator. I know she just wasn't just my mom. She was a great teacher. She was a caring teacher. She taught me how to not just teach the lesson, but care about the entire family.
Mm-hmm.
Did they need clothes? Did they need food? What did they need so that the child could come to class prepared and ready to learn? And so then I matriculated into school in the county we lived in, Brunswick County Public Schools, the best school district in Virginia. I don't care what anybody says. My little country town of Lawrenceville, we had one stoplight and one HBCU. We had more cows than people, but we were good to go. Elementary school, we didn't even have, we had a home daycare, Miss Marks, where I learned to love teachers and I learned to love learning. Miss Marks and Miss Packer, and then I went to Totera Elementary. I'm gonna shout out James Solomon Russell Junior High, and then I went to Brunswick Senior High. So we were the best class of '94. I love y'all. And when you come from a small town, our graduated class is like maybe 146 people. So we all know each other. We're all on Facebook together. And so I learned to love learning because I had amazing people and educators in my life. And not knowing that I was going to be in education, I went to Hampton University, expected to graduate as nursing major, expected to go into nursing and pediatric care, still was working with kids, but in pediatric care, changed my major freshman year to early childhood education. Graduated with a degree in English, went to Norfolk State, took some education classes, took the praxis. So I was one of those alternative, but they didn't have a word for it. So we have a degree in one thing, but we ended up teaching, and I didn't do student teaching. But I took the praxis. Actually, I did not. Yeah, I took the National Teachers Education Test. That's how old I am. And
Oh,
then
it wasn't even praxis.
it was,
See.
it was the NTE. And
Wow.
then I took the praxis later on because they were like the NTE scores were going away. And so because I was in that gap, I had to take the praxis. And shout out,
Why they ain't grandfather you in?
you know, education is not like that all the time. It depends on who's in charge. You know that. You know, it depends on who's in charge.
I'd ask.
Right. And then I took the praxis for middle school also. So I went back in again. And at Hampton University, I will say the two educators that stood out, other than my mom and my aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents, who are all in education, Dr. Haysbert, she just retired as provost for Hampton University not too long ago. She was my education 101 professor. And I'll never forget, she said, everybody in here would not end up being teachers because you don't have it in you. And I was like, oh.
There you go.
Okay. And I loved her. She was this amazingly beautiful Black woman that always wore hats and skirts and just natural hair, and I loved her. And then Dr. Gilchrist, who actually grew up with our mom, and she ended up giving me a job, thank goodness, at the Hampton University Lab School. And so that is where I learned how to run a small lab school, how to make sure the workers are okay, the kids were okay, how to do lesson planning. She was on my dissertation because at Hampton you had to do a thesis for undergrad. She was on my committee. And so I learned a lot from those two women. And plus just being at a HBCU, given, and the education department was very tight and they will pour into you. And the English department was even tighter and they will pour into me. And so all of that combined with education was just in my DNA. I don't think I would have been happy being a nurse unless I was like a teaching nurse. Teaching is just in me. I just didn't, I was running from it. Just didn't want to do it. But here I am.
Let's talk about your experience at Hampton. And before I ask the question, which one is the real HU?
Hampton.
Is it Hampton or Howard?
So the Hampton was an institute, and it was Howard University first, and we were Hampton Institute. So if we want to do historical facts, because I love those, Howard University was first. Now, moving forward, we want to know who has the prettiest campus, who has the best endowment, who has the hospital that's really, up and up. We want to look at alum. Hampton's always going to win because our campus is gorgeous and hands down, like we're going to win with just that. But Howard University on paper was the first university. They were the first HU. And we love them. Howard, we love y'all. My niece attends Howard now, even though her mama and daddy and I went to Hampton. It's okay. And so HBCU love, but yes, it was Howard University and we were Hampton Institute. And then we became Hampton University. But it is an ongoing joke and we love it. We love it. We love the battery and the going back and forth. And we love to joke and laugh, but we are always going to support each other. I went to a FAMU event the other day for Kwanzaa and enjoyed myself.
I mean, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. So you shared a lot about how going to Hampton really had an impact on your life.
Yes.
And also really shaped your development as an educator. Could you have imagined going to a PWI or a school that wasn't HBCU? Could you imagine that?
No. And I would tell you why. Only because the upbringing I had. So I come from a family where the question is not, are you going to college? The question literally is, which HBCU are you going to? I grew up in rural Virginia, so I had St. Paul's College, where my mom and my aunts and uncles attended. Virginia State, Virginia Union, so I had like 12 HBCUs within a 3-hour radius. I went all the way up to Howard, Bowie State, Maryland Eastern Shore, and I grew up as a CIAA baby. So that's all of the Southern HBCUs. My parents, because my mom and my aunts and uncles went to HBCUs, we were at the basketball games, the football games, the homecomings, CIAA tournaments. And so I grew up understanding that the option for college and university was only HBCU.
Nice.
But applying to school, my parents said you have to apply to 10 schools. They did ask me not to go out of state because that's more money. Stay in the state of Virginia. And I did apply to VCU. I did apply to ODU. I did apply to Virginia Tech, because those are the top PWIs in my era where I was from. But no, I knew in my heart I only needed to attend the HBCU for me. And I actually knew in about 7th grade that Hampton University was the school I wanted to go to. It wasn't like I just knew. My sister attended. I stayed with her for a spring break in high school, and I said, okay, locked and loaded. And my best friend was locked and loaded, and we were like, we are going to go to Hampton University for undergrad. That's it. No questions asked.
So y'all were definitely in your mind thinking, nope, It's gotta be Hampton. Can't be any other school.
No other school. And I applied to other schools, and I was going to be okay if Hampton said no. I was like, okay, there are other great schools, but in the back of my mind, I was like, please don't say no. please, please let me in. And it was one of my best decisions I made in my life. Be for me, and I can't. And I tell my nieces and nephews, and I tell young people now, what's for you? PWI, community college in the beginning, HBCU, whatever it is for you, make sure it's for you and not for anyone else. We believe in legacy, but we at this day and age, we want the kids to be in a comfortable, safe, and learning environment that fits them.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward a little bit. So you finish your undergrad at Hampton, you took some education courses at Norfolk State, and you still remain in your home state.
In my home state.
Start your teaching career, and you're there for a minute. So talk to me about some of those early years of teaching.
So I will say, because I came out without doing student teaching, I did know a little bit. I had done some long-term subbing back home. When I got a job in a county that I knew, and the people knew me, but I wouldn't tell them whose child I was until I signed my contract. And I will say it was a great experience. It was a rural county, just like the one I had grown up in, small school. And I'll never forget in my interview, after my interview, they were like, we want to hire you. What grade would you like? And I said, oh, I want first grade because that's the grade my mom teaches. And I'll never forget the assistant superintendent, because that's how you know it's small. The assistant superintendent is interviewing me. She looked at me, she said, oh no, we don't give first year teachers K or first grade. And that's something that's always stuck with me because that's essential. Those formative years, most of the time you don't need a first year teacher coming out. It's enough with us trying to navigate everything.
That's right.
You need a more seasoned teacher. So they gave me third grade. And I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful they did that. And it was a lot of on-the-job training. My observations were like, oh, you're doing a great job, but you're teaching, you're not breaking it down enough, which is something that I was like, okay, let me learn how to do this. They gave me the opportunity to observe seasoned teachers. The teachers came around me, my mom, my aunts. I would go to them and say, hey, I need some help. I don't understand how to break this down. They were very instrumental in teaching me and helping me understand how to be a great teacher. The parents were really good. They were like, we know you're a young teacher. We know you're a new teacher. Okay, we got you. They were very supportive. Anything I asked that we needed for class, it was there. And so I will have to say that my 26 years of teaching, starting from there all the way till I exited, I only had about 2 schools and 2 principals that I was like, you are horrible. Everyone else was amazing. They were great. And they were about teaching me to be a better educator inside the classroom with parents and understanding my professional development that I needed to get to become better. So that matriculation, I will say that my aunt introduced me to middle school. I was looking to transition out of that county closer to my home. I was driving an hour away and did an interview with her school. And she was like, I think you'll be great for middle school. And she was correct. I stayed in middle school over 20 years. And I got there and was like, these are my people. And only if you like middle school do you understand the student cussing you out. And you go, okay, I know. Oh my goodness, I am that. Oh, wow. Okay, go ahead to class. We'll talk about it during lunch. And then going to the door and standing there with a pencil because you know they can't get into math because they don't have a pencil. And you hand them the pencil, they say, I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay, go ahead to class, you're late. And that part, that's the part that I enjoy. That's the part where I was like, you're a child. We might be the same, like I tell them all the time, we're the same size, but we're not the same age. And you're still a child and still being able to mold and guide these young men and young women into being young men and young women and teaching them. I loved it. And people were like, you loved it? I loved it. I loved the sarcasm. I loved the wit. And all of that came from other teachers pulling me to the side saying, don't take it personal. Remember that they are still kids. This is how you navigate the system. And I think that was so important for me having mentors coming through.
And I'm a detour a little bit because every time we get on screen together, I always get amazed by your locks. Like,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, like your locks are just gorgeous every time you come on.
Appreciate that. Shout out to my loctician in DC.
Yes. So I want to ask this because when I started teaching, I started my locks during my first year of teaching. So this is 2010, 2011. And I've had them ever since then. So we're going on almost 14 years right here. So I'm wondering, when did you start your locks?
So I did not start my locks when I first started teaching. I started my locks in 2014.
2014. Okay.
Started my locks. And it's so funny because if I pull up pictures, my first year teacher, I was a perm girl. Like if I saw a little bit of something, I'm gonna need you to slap some perm right there. Like I need you to get the kitchen, the stove, the siding, all of this. And I ended up having an emergency appendectomy. Yes, almost lost my life. And didn't get to the hair salon. And by the time you finish healing and you can't, this is a real surgery. And by the time I got home and recuperated, my hair has gone back to its natural state. And it was at that point where I was like, you know what? We're just going to be natural. And I think about 2001 or 2002, I went natural. So I'd been natural before I locked. And in about 2013, 14, my hairstylist, she was like, we've done everything in natural we can do. And I called my sister and I said, I'll lock if you lock. And she said, okay. And she locked about 3 months before I did. And then I went ahead and locked. And it has been, I love it. Like, I love my locks. I cut them down a little bit, the edge, let them start over again because they do get heavy. But yeah, I love them. And it has been interesting because, like you said, my students will, hey, you need to retwist. You gonna get some more color? Is that your natural color? And I have to teach them how to ask to touch my hair because it's part of my body.
That's right.
And so I model for them. Hey, oh my God, your hair is beautiful today. Can I touch it? And the answer can be yes or no. And if you say no, I'm not gonna touch it. And so when I model for them, then they start saying, hey, Miss Gordon, can I touch your hair? And I said, sometimes I just don't want to be touched today. Like that's normal. And
that's
right.
I
want to say no. And it's okay. And it's appropriate for you to ask me to be in my space. And that's a life lesson. And especially for Black women, especially for Black women with locks, we do have a lot of unsolicited touching. I don't know what happens to people. And like, did you just touch me? And touching, and then they do like this, which I think is very inappropriate. Like you just ran your fingers through my hair. And so, yeah, but I love because my students that I taught looked like me. And I will always teach them, however you do your hair, it is about being healthy and being confident and comfortable. And so I would show them pictures. I've had my hair cut all off. I've had perms. I've had braids. I was like, I never did wigs because I just felt it was going to be hot. But, and so just teaching them that. But yeah, I think it's important for them to see the different types of teachers in the building. Like I had a teacher, she had some great wigs. I was like, girl, that's not your hair? She's like, this is a wig. I'm like, that's a wig. And then she would like show me, and I'm like, but it was great for our students to see that you could do your hair the way you want it in a professional setting, and it's okay. It's okay.
Ain't nothing wrong with the wig. Ain't nothing wrong with the wig. Nothing wrong with it at all.
Right. Yeah. Be healthy and be clean. Because it's middle school, you know.
That's it. Nah, that's it. That's the most important thing, being clean. Because hygiene is big in middle school. Uh, that that deserves its own episode. Just middle
What is?
school hygiene.
Mm.
How do you deal with funk?
How do you deal with the funk? That's the next
How do you deal
episode.
with the funk?
Next episode on Identity Talk.
There you go. But let's keep it moving. So you spend all these years teaching in
Yes.
middle school, and you get to a point where you see that the world around us is changing. Certain ideologies and pedagogies are getting stale or
Hmm.
outdated.
Yes.
You feel like you're getting stagnant in your own practice. So I just want to know, at what point did you say to yourself, we need to switch up this mode and make that shift towards micro schooling? So talk to me about how you arrived at this new reality that you're experiencing right now.
So I remember sitting in class. It had to be, I don't even know. I had come back from teaching over in Dubai. So right around the pandemic, because I came
Mm-hmm.
back because the pandemic was coming. I was on the way and they said, you need to either leave or stay. And I was like, I'm out. And I remember just sitting there and I remember going, it's got to be another way. Like what I'm doing and the way I'm teaching right now, that's not it. The kids, not enough gains, not enough improvement. And so during the pandemic, when we closed the school buildings and I had to teach virtually, I figured it out. And I started
Mm-hmm.
researching. I started saying, okay, what is a pod? What is this homeschool, micro school thing? What is it? What does it mean when students only go a couple of days a week or they're online? And then one day, one of my classes, we were just hanging out on a Friday because I changed the way I taught during the pandemic. I no longer was teaching 60, 90-minute classes. I went straight kind of college style where I said, okay, we have class on Monday through Thursday. This is the time you can jump on. Fridays is kind of like study hall. Um, Come do roll call, check in
Yeah.
with me. We went to, like, I would do a lot of Loom videos. I had a lot of students that were working in the fields, my migrant students. I had a lot of my middle school students online with their younger siblings because parents were at work. And so I changed the way they did work. I changed the way when things were due. I would give them the whole week, Sunday to Sunday. I changed my availability. Some days we just did check-ins, and then I told them, bye. I don't need to sit on here watching you watch a video, reading and doing all of this foolishness. We were in class for 15 minutes, thank you. And they go, really? And I was like, I'm going to leave this open, but you can exit class and go back to sleep, like whatever, because you have time to do this. And that's what changed it, where I was like, my students said to me, we really like how we have this freedom and we have access to you if we need you. We would prefer not to have to come to school to take your class, but only come to school maybe to take math and science, like the more hands-on classes. And I
Mm-hmm.
totally got it. I was an ELA teacher. We don't really need to be hands-on as much as math with manipulatives or with science with your labs. And at that
Right.
point, I'm like, oh, they're onto something. They are my client, and they are actually telling me to my face virtually, we don't need to meet with you every day. We can get this. We like when you do the videos. We like when you give us time to process and ask questions. And I was like, hey, if you want to research that, research it and turn it in, and I'll give you extra credit.
Mm.
And that's when the micro school, that's when the pods, that's when the innovative education aspect like really kicked in. Because I was already getting in trouble for teaching different all of the time. Like you,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't do that, or did you do that? I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's my kids don't want that, and that's dumb, and it makes no sense. And we don't want to do that. So I was already getting in trouble, and so then I realized I don't. It's not I'm getting in trouble. I'm in the wrong aspect. I'm in the wrong arena. Let me go to this arena over here. And so that was the biggest thing during COVID, during the traditional school building being closed, but we were virtually and just listen to my students. and saying, okay, you know what? There is something else. I keep asking myself, what is it? And now I found it.
Hi friends, it's me, Thaddeus from Thaddeus Nature Notebook. Are you loving our journey into the wild and learning all about awesome animals? Then don't forget to subscribe. You can find Thaddeus Nature Notebook on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and never miss a new episode. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about your favorite animal. Thanks for listening and exploring nature with me. Let's keep discovering together. Now back to my daddy's self.
You know, that's the thing that blows my mind about education, especially in the States. We do this work for the students. Students are customers. Essentially, as teachers, we're providing customer service to students. So if the student is sharing how dissatisfied they are with the service, why are we huffing and puffing about it? If that were to happen at Walmart or Target or Starbucks, wherever we get a product, it's always customers right.
Yes.
Oh, let's just find a way to rectify it. We're not even going to question you, the customer. We're going to figure out on our end, where did we mess up? And how can we make this experience better for you, right?
Right.
Why can't we transfer that mindset into our school systems?
I will say that we can, but systems are systems. So we have systemic racism.
Sure.
And we have systemic ideology of how or what education should look like in America. And it's hard to break away. I saw us breaking away during COVID. And I was excited. I was like, oh, the door is open. The water is flowing. We got this. We're not going to go back to 60, 90-minute classes. We're going to listen to our students. We're not going to keep doing all these stupid, frivolous testing all year. We're just going to test 1, 2, 3. And we're going to give kids and all of the things we were doing. And I promise you, 3 months back into the classroom, they were like, pow, pow, shut the door, close the window, go back to traditionalists. And the kids hated it. They were like, we have gotten this little bit of freedom. We have gotten this drinking of this different type of soda and Kool-Aid and water. And we love this. And the teachers, and not all teachers were down with the newness. I can say that. But most of us were like, oh, we like this. And the system did not want to change. And we went through that, kids not coming back.
Yes.
Parents sending the kids back. Kids are dropping out for those 2 years right afterwards. And it was a middle school to high school group that they were like, oh, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do it like y'all want us to do it. We were doing it this way and we loved it.
All right.
What we have to do is, I love what you said. I call them my clients. What do the clients want? And so one of the things I said at a conference not too long ago, I said, these kids now, look, when I was in school, you can say, Benita, do this, and this, because I said so. And we were going to do it. The end. No questions asked. Yes, sir. This group, they are going to ask the questions. One, because we raised them to ask questions. We raised this group to ask the questions and ask all of the questions. And two, if it doesn't show why they need to do it, they're not going to do it.
That's true.
So when you're telling me I need to learn Latin, but why? Okay, I want you to learn Latin because you told me you want to go into the medical field. Okay.
There you go.
And in the medical field, Latin is how you do your vocabulary, your medicine, all of these things. And so when you prove to me why I need this thing, is what we call buy-in. If there's no buy-in, students will not learn. And especially this group of students. This group of students, they don't care about nobody's nothing, nowhere, no how, no time. Why?
Why?
So that's what happened.
Yeah. And then staying on this topic of micro schools, you're very much aware of what's happening around us.
Yes.
You're very much aware of what's happened politically within our country.
Yes.
The latest election results and everything. I'm curious to know from your perspective, what role do you believe microschools can play in counteracting these negative forces that are going to be coming into play very soon within our education systems?
So I always tell people, a lot of times people want to pit charter schools and micro schools and homeschool against public school or the private school system. That is
Sure.
what we want to do. Education needs to be like sneakers. What sneaker does your child need to wear?
Mm-hmm.
What sneaker is the great fit for you and your family?
Yes.
When we start understanding education like that, where we're like, and it might be, it was three of us. My dad and mom knew even what sports to make us try out for. And so when you get to know your child, like they would try to put me piano, the lady was like, no, no. They took me immediately to dance and gym. And they knew this is the outside girl. She flips all the time. You go here. And that's the same thing. So when we're looking at the new administration coming in and what they're saying about public education, we have to understand that who's talking about it and what do they want to do.
Right.
Then as citizens, as parents, as aunties, as grandparents, as godparents, how do we circle around as the community to say, we're going to hold you accountable for all of the children? This is what happens. And we know that they want to dissolve the Department of Education. What we have to understand is that that's big. So we're talking about everybody from pre-K to university will be impacted. We're talking about our gifted students as well as our students who have special needs will be impacted. We're talking about sporting programs. Title IX will be impacted.
That's right.
Public charter schools will be impacted. And so we now have to push back as a community, as a society, and say, hold up, wait a minute. Before you start touching all of these things, because what's going to happen is you're thinking that you're getting at one particular group of people, but what you're really doing is uneducating generations of Americans, where we're always saying we want our kids to be global. They won't even be anything because we have uneducated students. We have uneducated citizens. And so American citizens really going to have to pay attention. And the micro school community, we've been paying attention for a minute. We've been paying attention to understanding that ESA vouchers, or whatever you want to call them, are giving people access to different types of education that accommodate the type of child that you have. But I'm never going to say take away everything, because I'm from rural Virginia. If you give me a voucher, where are we going to go? There's only one middle school and one high school. And so it doesn't work for everyone. We don't have a church that has a school. We have one private school, and that private school is not for anybody of color. Let's just be real. It's been like that forever. And they know who I'm talking about, and they're not going to debate me on it. They know who they are. And so we have to be very careful when we start coming in saying we're going to erase an entire department, because it would impact all of the Head Start falls underneath that. Like, it's going to impact all of the children. And now you're going to have people who are in public-private situations. Now they're going to come into the conversation. And it's going to be, and I have to say this, that things like this don't happen overnight. It does take some voting. It does take some transition.
Yes.
It will take a moment. But as micro school founders and micro school advocates, we see what's happening. And we open micro schools for different reasons. One of the reasons I'm a micro school advocate is about class size.
Yes.
And is about student centered. And so, like I always tell parents, I said, at times I had a best friend, her daughter was an amazing dancer. She had to take her out of school because that's how great she was. She had to homeschool her because her dance routine, her dance schedule, and the school schedule didn't match. She needed to be gymnast or a student that's, you really don't need to be in school because you just can't handle it. You're ADHD. My students that are on the spectrum. So we open micro schools for different reasons. I have I worked at a micro school. I had several students who were at a micro school. They were kicked out of schools for discipline reasons. But at a micro school, they were leaders. They were
Mm-hmm.
running it. They were doing the thing. They were amazing students, amazing young men and women, because it was a micro school for middle schoolers. But the public school system, with the certain types of discipline and just the bullying and all of the things, was not a good fit for them.
Right, right.
And so we have to make sure we give options to everyone, and we have to pay attention to what is happening because everybody doesn't have options. And so we have to make sure public school is an option still.
So with that, I'm wondering, what is the accreditation process for a micro school? So let's say that I want to start a micro school
Mm-hmm.
and I want to get it certified within my state, because I would assume it's by state because
Mm-hmm.
there's certain guidelines, right? In general, what is the process of getting that micro school accredited so that you're able to take students from the state and enroll them in your school?
So there are two different avenues. Some of the micro schools in some of the states you don't need any type of accreditation.
Okay.
You need to have a business license. You need to have a space. Your space may or may not need to be inspected. Your space can be in your home. Your space can be in the church. Your space can be in the dance studio that they don't use during the day, and then they come and do dance in the afternoon. So the first thing I
Yeah.
always do is pay attention. Google what your state requires.
Okay.
Some people do a lab school or like a private school avenue. That is when you're looking at accreditation, especially if you're taking funding from the state. So there are two avenues even to take funding. When we're taking funding from the state, most states who take funding, you have to opt in to test the students 3 times a year. Some states, you just test the kids, but you don't have to give them your results. They just need to know that you tested the kids. A lot of times, our client are the parents and the students. And so when we test the kids, when we do portfolios for the students, we ensure that there's access all the time. So the parents can see we're doing portfolios. We give them a progress report. Here's what's going on. If we're going the route of accreditation and we're going the route of private schooling, then they're a little bit more structured because you are falling under that particular state. And even your where you are, you want to make sure they're going to come in, they're going to inspect. Do you have enough bathrooms? Do you have enough lighting? All of the things. What do you need to have? And they will give you a checklist. And you just want to make sure. So like I have a friend, their school is for students that are on the spectrum. They are accredited. They receive funding, and the parents are able to get different types of funding to pay for the school. They have to be inspected. They want them to come in and make sure that they are within the legal ramifications of having that schooling. And so it always depends on, are you homeschooling? Some micro schools fall into homeschools. Do you want accreditation? Do you want to come in as a private homeschool? And so it just depends on how you want to run that school. And it also depends on how many students you want to have.
Okay. This is helpful because there are a lot of people who are moving towards pulling students out of the traditional K-12 school and having them homeschooled, but they're like, I don't have the bandwidth to homeschool my child. So what are some other alternative ways in which I can ensure that my child does get that quality education that he or she or they may not be getting in the traditional K-12?
So that's one of the things with my micro school. We're looking at, we restructured it. And so we're looking at homeschool drop off. And what that means is that you may be at home Monday and Wednesday. And then you come into our micro school Tuesday and Thursday. And you're with us. You're with us doing the work, or we are helping you finish some work because you need that. A lot of times when they get to middle school, parents they need friends. They want to have the socialization. So they come in 2 days a week. They come in 3 days a week. They might be at home Monday and Friday, and they only come to our school Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We help them finish the work. Sometimes the parents opt into doing the program and the curriculum we do. Sometimes parents already have a curriculum they're doing. That's okay. They can be dropped off, and we help them make sure they're mastering, make sure if they need anything. So you're right. Their parents, especially when they get in the upper grades, the parents are like, I don't remember this algebra stuff. I don't know what they're talking about. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
They sign up, they pay for the homeschool drop off part, and the micro school is different because micro school is Monday through Friday, 9 to 2. Homeschool is 2 or 3 days a week, and it's a different price. And so we sit there and say, what do you need? What is it that you need, and how can we accommodate what you need, and what does your child need? Because at middle school, you're able to articulate needs and wants. And then we're doing a STEM program after school. So robotics, dance, entrepreneurship, we're trying financial, one of the biggest things. They need a financial literacy. So we're doing financial literacy. So we're lining everything up and have the curriculum ready. And then we're looking for our space now.
All right. Making big moves in 2025. I love it.
Yes, I am
love
so
it.
excited. And at the same time, what's crazy is that I still have parents who have kids in public school going, are you still tutoring? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm still tutoring students. And so when we get our space, definitely want to still be able to bring my tutoring students in from public and private and charter schools and still tutor them. If they want to be in the after school robotics club, come on in. Because kids need to be able to just socialize, especially at that age. That's the social age.
The Identity Talk for Educators Live podcast is just one piece of the work that we do under Identity Talk Consulting, which we've had since 2019. And since then, we've had the privilege of working with 40 different schools, districts, and organizations across the globe. And we want to continue to add to that number in this new year. So if you are a school, if you're an educator or an organization that's looking to receive professional development and consulting services within any of our pillars, whether it's anti-bias, anti-racist practices, culturally responsive teaching, or identity affirming education, we are the firm for you, and we love to learn more about your needs. When you have a chance, make sure you go to our website at identitytalk4educators.com to learn more about our services and to schedule a discovery call today. We love to hear from you. All right, that's major for sure. So I got a couple more questions,
Okay.
and then we'll start to wrap up. I want to ask you about Ghana ASCD because we were just in Ghana last July, and I want to thank you again for attending my session because you were there where I did my session with our participants, and I already shared with you how that experience impacted me being a Ghanaian American and being able to come back in this capacity and present to Ghanaian educators. It was very much a full circle moment for me. But I want to know from you, how did that experience last year impact you on a personal and professional level?
So I can tell you, I still haven't even processed everything. I saw some pictures that came up on my phone yesterday, and I just sat there for a moment and just was like, yes, I did this.
Yeah.
Personally, I will say I've traveled all the time.
Sure.
I'd only been to Morocco and Africa. I had been to the Middle East, Caribbean islands, all of the things, taught in some places, taught in Spain, taught in Dubai, in Ajman. Getting off the plane and walking out of the airport, I can't even describe what it was a feeling of, but it was a feeling of something. And then my sister and my sister's mother-in-law, we already got it together. We said, it's a feeling of coming home, but not knowing that you was lost. Like I didn't know I wasn't home already until I was home. And so personally for me, that's what it did. It did a welcome home. I'm glad you're here. We know that you didn't know you were lost, or not even, we know you didn't know you were missing, but we're going to welcome you in. And the cultural, the hospitality, the love, the respect, the admiration. I told somebody, I said, it's like looking at your cousins, but they're not your cousins, but they're your cousins. That's what it was for me personally.
Yeah.
I'm about to get emotional, going to where they held the slaves that were about to be shipped to America, or to just shipped off the continent, and going in and hearing the stories and being present and feeling whatever it was that I was feeling.
That's right.
And then my sister said something to me that just has resonated with me. Like, I keep it in the back of my mind. She said, even though we know our ancestors were not from that part of Africa, these people survived and endured months here, months on a slave ship.
Yes.
In the Middle Passage, months on the Middle Passage, endured enslavement in America for us to come back to Africa. So there is nothing in our DNA that says weak at all.
No,
Everything
right.
about our DNA says royalty, says strength, says perseverance, says endurance. And when she said that, I was like, of course, they were all crying, because we were like, that is the most powerful thing for me, was to stand there and say, somebody endured all of that. For me, this little girl from a little country town whose parents met because somebody else introduced them.
Right.
I'm here. And I grew up, I'm a Christian. We grew up Christian, and it reminded me of the scripture that I always tell people, don't despise small beginning. And I felt like, for me, being there, standing there, this was like the biggest, this is like the epitome of something I've done in my life. Like, this is the biggest thing I've done.
Yeah.
Being invited to, and then professionally, I remember when I got the announcement saying, you're invited to speak, and you're going to speak here and here and here. You're going to be on a panel here, and then you're going to stay an extra day and do this master class. And I was sitting there reading this going, me? me. I want a stage where Kwame Simmons, Kwame-Mensah, Dr. Scott and I sat beside each other, was joking and laughing. He's my cousin because my mom's maiden name is Scott, and he's from Virginia. And we're joking and laughing, and I'm meeting people that I follow on LinkedIn and social media who are educational gurus. I'm sitting on the stage with the ASCD, ISTE president, and we're talking about ed tech together in a panel.
Yes.
Me. And so professionally, it reminded me when my dad used to tell me, Benita, the Lord will put you in places where you didn't think you were supposed to be, but he already knew you were going to be there. And it's like the conversation I have with my nieces and my nephews, and I'll say to them, look, continue to do you and be who you're supposed to be, and your work ethic, and do all of the things. Because when people get into spaces, they will speak your name and you won't even know.
Right. That's right.
Professionally, I came to your session. Let me tell you something. I said in that session, and I'll tell you, I laughed and I joked, but I learned. And I always tell educators, don't stay in the same school district. Don't stay in the same school. Travel abroad. Go to a school and visit that school when you're abroad. Go talk to teachers of other ethnicities, other districts, other countries, to come to Accra, to this conference, and sit with teachers, with educators, even the college students. I sat and talked to them, and to get an understanding of international global education, to take that with me was essential. Sitting in your class going, we did that in the South. Like we did that in Southern classes. We can't do that no more. Or just saying to them, I remember in my session, the lady, she was like, we don't have computers, and everybody in America has computers. I said, girl, no, they don't. Don't let them fool you. It's still schools in America that don't have technology. They don't have strong Wi-Fi. During the pandemic, people were still giving kids paper packets to take home and drop off every week. And it was a meshing of ideas, was a true collaboration of how do we move education to the 22nd century. And so for me personally, professionally, it opened my eyes. It made me aware of gaps that I had that I needed to work on. And how do I help not just students in America, but students globally for real? And so it was so funny because I remember my sister was like, we're going to be gone. You know, they were on vacation. And I was like, I'm at work. But every day I could come back and just like share pictures and share story. And I was like, you know, we have some Hampton University alum here, we have some HBCU alum in the house. And I was like, these people were on a podcast and now I'm meeting them in real life. And so I just think people truly have to understand that going to conferences is essential to your professional development. And when you go to a conference that aligns to who you are personally and professionally, it's worth everything. It wasn't expensive, but it was worth it because what I got back, my cup and my heart and my soul and spirit were overflowing. And it still is. I'm ready for year 2. I'm like, this is gonna be my vacation. I'm not going to vacation anywhere else.
Like, this is it right here.
I'm moving to Ghana. My sister's like, I said, they sent me a passport. I'm going over there. I'm gonna give me a little apartment in Ghana and travel back and forth.
I mean, listen, why not? That's what everybody else is doing, right? But listen, whew, you know, you and I can go on and on, but we're gonna have to tie the bow to this conversation real soon. I want to ask you this, and this is the question that I ask everybody: how do you stay true to the teacher in you?
Yo, that is a real question. And I will say the beginning of the holiday season, something happened in my profession to me and it made me question, am I even on the right path? Am I even walking? Who am I? And I thought about it and I prayed about it and I wrote and then I called a mentor and they told me to do something and I did it. And this is what I figured out. I know what my education philosophy is. I know what my teaching philosophy is, and I stick to that. And my philosophy is every student should have access to education.
That's right.
Every student should have access to great educators. Those are the 2 things I believe in. You should have great education, and the people in front of you should be great. And that's how I stick to being true to who I am. So if your public school is foolish, it's foolish. If your charter school is full of foolishness, it is. If your micro school, if you at the home, if you talking about you homeschooling and then you getting on here talking about your kid hasn't turned in any project, doesn't turn in anything and it's May, don't talk to me. You about that foolishness. And so that's where I am. And so my job coming in as a concierge is to help people navigate that. And so if you're in a position where you don't know where to find the best school that fits your child, if you're an educator and you're trying to figure out how do I become the best and stay the best, or how do I unlearn some foolishness I learned over there and coming into this new spot, what do I do? That's how I stay true to it. I'm like, this is why I'm here, to help people navigate through this education system and to make sure we have great systems and great people in the system.
There we go. But Benita, thank you. Thank you for taking time to share. It's always good to connect with you. I know we're going to see each other tomorrow, but it's always good to connect. Well, listen, before I let you go, please let the good people know how they can connect with you on social media and just share about some of the services you're providing.
So I am on LinkedIn, Benita C. Gordon. I am on TikTok and Instagram. And I think that's it. Facebook sometimes. But I am on Instagram and TikTok. I am the Edu Concierge. And so I am there all the time. Hit me up, slide into my DMs professionally if you need something, if you need some assistance. And so what we do at the Global Education Concierge is we help people navigate the education system. And when we say people, we mean parents, educators, community institution and educational institutions. And so anybody from the YMCA to if you are a school like Lemoyne Owen in Memphis, where you're like, hey, we want to give our teachers a little bit more professional development. They come in, they hire us. You could be a parent and you're like, I don't really like how they doing my child, or I'm not understanding. We've just been diagnosed with autism, not understanding the role and the things that the school needs to do.
That's
We
right.
come in and help them navigate through that. And so all of that, we do DEI. I know people are like, oh my gosh, DEI. Shut up. It is what it is. Like DEI. I don't care what kind of funding you take away from it. All we're doing now is just going to the community. We're going to teach our kids the truth, and we're a part of that. And so we do all of those things at Global Education Concierge. And so those of you who don't really understand what I just said, as a good old country girl, I'm going to tell you like this. We talk about education from the rooter to the tutor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do. And we help you navigate through that.
All right. Y'all heard it here. So make sure you connect with Benita
Yes.
for your needs. And we are about to wrap up another episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live. And on behalf of Benita, I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. We're going to do this again another time. Peace out, everybody.